If you have some pattern paper and some solid colored cardstock, tape or glue, and something to cut with, I'm going to show you how to make 6 simple yet elegant layered cards. This is a great project for a beginning card maker because you don't need any special tools. And if you're already experienced at making cards, this is a quick way to make 6 cards using some of your scraps and pattern paper. Join me for my creative day as we make 6 cards. I'm Sue. Now let's get crafting. As I look through the packet, I'm looking for a few sheets that have complementary patterns or colors. Now I know all sheets in this packet will go together, but some will work better than others. I decided to pick the sheets with the sentiments written on them, and to coordinate, I've picked the floral wreath paper and the wood grain sheet. Now, if you can't find a sheet with pre-printed sentiments like this, I'll have another way that you can make these cards with your own printed sentiments at the end of it. A sentiment sheet is just a greeting or phrase that conveys the message you want to express. This one luckily came with a pad of paper. So we're going to make 6 cards. In addition to the patterned paper, you're going to need 3 sheets of cardstock base, which I'm using white, and 3 sheets of complementary solid colored papers. You'll also need a small sheet of white paper for layering. Now I picked the pink, the dark and light green cardstock because they're going to bring out the leaves and the flowers on the printed card sentiments, and they are also complementary colors. Now I'm going to cut apart this sentiment sheet and use one for each card. In addition to the paper, you're going to need something to cut with. Now you can use anything to cut your paper, from scissors and a straight edge to an actual paper cutter, which is the easiest. After that, grab some craft glue and some permanent double-sided tape. You also want to grab something to crease the cardstock. I use a bone folder. Once you have your supplies ready, it's time to cut all the paper. We're making cards 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches, or an A2 card size. Here are the dimensions you need for cutting. I will also post these in the comments section for you. Now when cutting your paper, be as accurate as you can be to make sure that they are both the correct measurements and square, because the layers I have created are thin. This is where a paper cutter makes the process so much more accurate and quicker. But if you take your time, you can get the same results with scissors and a ruler. Once everything is cut, I have laid it out and I'm ready to assemble. But before I grab my tape, I'm going to dry fit everything to ensure that I'm happy with the combinations before they become permanent. The first layer is the pink and the light green, which is cut 5 1/8 inches by 3 7/8 inches. It's our largest layer. So I'm adding this to 4 of the card bases. Our next layer is the dark green and pattern paper, which is 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches. One thing I want to point out is that if your paper has a texture on it, make sure that that texture is face up. This dark green paper only has one side with texture. Now I am using this to add a base layer to 2 of the card blanks, and then as a second layer for the middle cards. Now that we have our base cards all set, the next thing we want to do is to look at all the sentiments and decide which sentiment would be best on each card. This first sentiment already has a border around it, so I'm just going to place it right on the pink card and call it done. This sentiment has a little bit of everything: wood grain, flowers, and leaves, and I'm going to use it on the dark green base after giving it a layer of light green behind it. I like how the white space in the sentiment stands out against the dark green background. This one with the floral wreath is going with its matching base layer. I do want to add some layers behind it so that it stands out from the base. And the layers that I'm adding behind it are very thin, so they make it stand out without becoming the focus of the card. I added the pink layer so it pulls out the pink from the flowers. And I didn't choose the green layer because there's already so much green in the design. This sentiment with the pots will go on the wood grain paper. I think the color of the pots matches the wood grain, which will bring out this feature. By adding some white and pink layers behind it, I'm replicating the layers that I did in the base card. On the last 2 sentiment cards with the dark green, I'm going to pair the sentiment that has the flowers on it. For the layers, I'm adding a white and a light green layer, which will tie in with the leaves on the printed sentiment. This last sentiment has a thin white line as part of the design, so I'm just going to add another white layer behind it to duplicate that same design feature. Now that you have all the cards placed, my best advice is to take a picture. Although these cards are quick to make, if life happens and you need to step away, a picture will help you get things back in order if they get messed up, and you can continue on with the assembly. To assemble the cards and start taping them, I'm going to keep them very organized. I'm going to put together the sentiment layers first. So I'm going to separate the sentiments from the base cards, but I'm keeping them in the same position order, so when the time comes to combine them, they're just ready to go. To start taping, I'm just going to flip down the top layer from each of the sentiments. I'm doing this so that I can tape all the sentiments at the same time. This saves time because you're doing the same process repetitively instead of always putting down and picking up the tape. Small little time savers like this will make card making process quicker and smoother. And between the small time savers like this and good organization, even a beginning card maker can make 6 cards at once in a short amount of time. When taping your layers together, it's important to make sure that you line them up as evenly as you can. I line up the top and the sides first. If they look even, chances are the bottom is even also. If you're off, you can always peel it away and tape it down again. Now, if the layers scare you, you can try working with a craft glue. Here, with a craft glue, you have a little bit of time to slide your layer around so you can line it up how you want it. Now, a word of caution. Nothing is ever perfect. Homemade cards aren't designed to be perfect. So just get the layers to the point where you're happy with them. Now that the sentiments are all taped up, it's time to assemble the card bases. Now, just like the sentiments, I'm going to pull away the top layers first of the 3 card bases and tape them in place. I'm adding tape here to both the edges and the center of the card bases because I want to make sure it stays nice and secure. And you will notice that the layers on the base cards are a little bit different and a little bit bigger than what we had with the sentiments, but just use the same process for lining them up before you press down. Now that the bases are done, all we need to do is add the sentiments. Now, it's a personal choice where the sentiment goes. I'm adding them all to the middle of the card because I want them to be the focus of the card. And I'm going to do all 6 cards the same way. But you feel free to place your sentiments where you want on your cards, either all in the same position or in different positions. Now, I told you earlier I had an alternative if you didn't have the pre-printed sentiments. There are many websites where you can search for free sentiments. Just find what you're looking for and then print it out on cardstock. If you layer it the same way I did with the pre-printed sentiments, you can add it right to your card, and that way the possibilities are endless. Here are the finished cards. Now, you don't need to just stop at layering paper. You can always add more details to your cards with glitter glue or using foam dimensional tape. Depending upon what supplies you have on hand, you can continue to embellish the cards or leave them as simple, elegant cards. So what do you think? I find that creating a bundle of cards at once is both a good use of my time and easy, as long as I remember to stay organized. And that's our 6 cards. I hope you liked the ideas and tips I gave you. If you did, hit that like button below. If you want to see more like this, hit the subscribe button, and I'll continue to share my creative days with you. And that's all till our next creative day.